Next one is reach an agreement. Serving as a skilled negotiator, you and your seller agree on price and terms, including closing and settlement date or closing date. So here are a few things that is agreed upon. First thing would be price. When it comes down to it, the best or the highest price usually wins, especially when there are multiple offers. So asking your real estate agent for a comparative market analysis is to your benefit. This way, you can assess whether the seller is pricing at or above or even below market value and strategize how much to offer accordingly. Timing, we'll say, is the second most important consideration of a real estate contract. And that is the timeline for obtaining title, finance, and inspections and attorney approvals. Usually, the next step following the signing offer is the home inspection. Now, once the home inspection has been performed and passed, that's one less contingency for the contract, and it strengthens the contract once that contingency is off the table. Everyone is proceeding to the closing. These are other pieces of real estate contract puzzle, which includes riders. A rider, otherwise known as an addendum, is an add-on to a real estate contract. They are put in place to safeguard the specific needs of each party involved in the contract. So some of the most popular riders I've seen attached to a real estate contract include disclosures and rules and regulations of like a homeowners association, a Federal Housing Administration rider, especially common with first-time home buyers, specifying that the buyer is securing a mortgage loan through FHA. Contingencies is something else that is a moving part. Contingencies are a list of requirements or conditions that must be met before closing. Essentially, the contract is contingent on these items, and without them, the buyer can back out of the contract with no penalties. Some common contingencies include that the buyer obtain a loan to finance the purchase, the buyer selling their current house, repairing or negotiating the contract around any major issues of repairs found during the home inspection, the house appraising equal to or higher than the sales price. The inspection period can uncover some pretty significant issues that may require negotiating the purchase price, which is what the inspector contingency is there for. The as-in clause pertaining to the property inspection happens to be the biggest issue I've come across. An offer will stipulate that the buyer will purchase the property as is because it's more desirable to a seller to sell it as is. If an inspection discovers a major issue involving, like say the roof, the AC system, plumbing, or even a structural problem, the doors of negotiation are reopened. The seller will realize the inspection results would need to be disclosed to the next buyer regardless. Earnest money. First, let me tell you what earnest money is. So earnest money is a payment made by the buyer. It's part of the buyer's down payment that they pay when the house goes under contract instead of at closing. That amount can be negotiated between the buyer and the seller. You could negotiate earnest money deposit. Considerations. Considerations are a key element of a real estate contract and simply means anything of value is exchanged as part of a transaction or an agreement, which most often means money. Another moving part would be closing costs. Closing costs are any additional fees beyond the purchase price necessary to transfer the home to the new buyer, such as title insurance, notary fees, transfer tax. Now, whether the buyer or the seller is responsible for paying the closing costs varies. That varies from state to state and from deal to deal. But a real estate agent can best advise on the closing cost standards of the market and whether they can be negotiated between the buyer and the seller. At signing, once all the above terms are agreed and each party signs, the contract, it is legally binding. If the buyer pulls out of the contract without any justification, the earnest money deposit can be forfeited. And in some cases, the seller or the buyer could sue each other. That is a contract of a sale.